This is Rudy Giuliani, and welcome to another episode of Rudy's Common Sense. This one is going to focus on the two major, actually the only two, I believe, gubernatorial races in the country. And because they are as much this year national, they often are actually, as they are relating to the state, because issues have emerged in both that are issues that involve all of us throughout the country. And both races will be seen in some way as a reflection of the mood of the electorate. Probably of more consequence on the Democrat side than the Republican side, because both of these states are now considered to be Democrat states, or as we call them, blue states. New Jersey hasn't voted a Republican since Lincoln. I mean, I'm kidding. They haven't voted for a Republican since I can't remember when. And we thought a few times they would, and then all of a sudden the unions come in and boy, they just end the whole thing. So it's been largely on the presidential level a blue state, with the exception of Governor Christie. And it does have a tendency to go Republican at the gubernatorial level occasionally, but the odds are it's Democrat and it's blue, and usually Republicans who think they're going to win in the last 3 weeks, 2 weeks, get wiped out by all the union money coming in, and may I say, by the crooked cities in New Jersey that are that haven't been reformed and haven't been changed. And when a party is in that kind of control of some of those cities, I mean, they really stink. You have any idea how many mayors in New Jersey have gone to jail, federal prison? Less than the mafia, but it'd be a good, interesting book. You know, maybe the shorter book would be how many mayors didn't go to jail. And then the other one that's up is in Virginia, which is still, I say, a state in transition, but definitely now on a presidential level, tending more blue than red, and very much influenced by the government class. And the government class is largely under attack by what would be considered the prevailing Republican agenda. I mean, if you could divide the two parties, which you can almost everything, one of the great divisions is the Democrats are the party of the strong, big, giant, I would say, obese federal government, and the Republicans are the party of let's slim it down. And they do slim it down, but never enough. And then you have the Trump part of the party, which would like to really take an axe to it. And I think if it gets another chance, there won't be any delay in that. So these are two states that can tell you a lot. Should they go Democrat by a big margin, it's going to make the Democrats feel like they can hold on to their base. If they lose, Democrats lose, they're going to be shook like you can't imagine. And if they win by a small margin, the Democrats, it's going to be considered, oh boy, we don't know what's going to happen. So what's going on? Let's get the first one. Let's go to Virginia, where that apparatchik of the Clintonistas, Terry McAuliffe, is running for governor. Really, one wonders. I mean, I thought he had left the country years ago, but I thought he was like after he finished selling the Lincoln bedroom, I thought he'd be going to sell other things like the Brooklyn Bridge and maybe the Eiffel Tower. But no, he's running for governor, and he is and has been for some time the leading candidate because it is a Democrat state. But he made a mistake. Well, if it is a mistake, because he's doubling down on it, he made a mistake of monumental proportions, which I'm sure he'd like to have back. But you know, nowadays you don't get it back, and then the other thing to do is, do you apologize for it or you double down on it? And McAuliffe is a hard-headed guy, and he's decided to double down on it. Here's the mistake. During the Virginia gubernatorial debate several weeks ago, he said, parents, I'm going to read it correctly, parents should have no role in directing the education of their children and asked whether protections for transgender students should be determined at the state level or in each school district. This issue emerged in the debate between him and his Republican opponent, and during the discussion, he was asked about education, and what he said was, in essence, that parents should have no role in directing the education of their children. And it was, I would say you would have to say it was electrifying. I think the words they use now is it went viral. And let's play a little of that, because you've got to hear it. Everybody's heard it, you probably have, but let's hear it because it sets the framework for this discussion.
I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach. I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach.
Well, as you can see, I mean, you couldn't be any clearer than that. It really would be hard to walk away from it, wouldn't it? I mean, the interchange. Youngkin says to him, "You believe school systems should tell children what to do?" Youngkin said to McAuliffe, "I believe," says Youngkin, "parents should be in charge of their kids' education." In response, McAuliffe said, "I'm not going to let parents come into schools and actually take books out and make their own decisions." And then he adds, "I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach." Whoa. Well, what happened? The race became a toss-up immediately. Youngkin went ahead in some of the polls. And now the Democrat Party is doing what they usually do at the end of a race when they're in trouble. They're using all that massive amount of money they have, some legit and some not so legit, and they're pouring it into the race. And between a few days ago and a few days from now, we're going to see Mrs. Obama, Jill Biden, President Biden, every Democrat, they can get out. We've seen Stacey Abrams make appeals in the black churches. I wonder what would happen if, Cardinal, I'll just make up a Cardinal Di Giovanni came in and went through all the Catholic churches and told them to vote for the Republican candidate because the Republican candidate would save lives, would not allow the murder and slaughter of children, and that Virginia is the state with their current governor, Northam, who has gone further than any others, and even suggests that you can have a little bit of time after the baby is born to slaughter it. Remember when Northam said, well, if a abortion takes place and the child is accidentally born, well then, and the parent's unconscious, there should be a little grace period to make a decision. I don't know if Northam, like the president, is profoundly stupid or not, but what he was saying is quite clear. He was saying the baby that was supposed to be aborted is not. The baby is now born. The baby is now put in something, could even be a chamber, whatever. Now the parent, when it wakes up, should have a little time to consult with the doctor as to whether it still wants to abort the baby. Now, I'm sorry, I studied criminal law for a very long time and practiced it even longer. That's murder. That when that baby comes out, and I don't care whether you're for or against abortion, when that baby comes out, that baby is a person. To take the life of a person in the United States is murder. I mean, they're pretty close to it anyway, if you can abort the child 2 days before it's born. What is it? It's a child. It's got everything, but boom, we're going to kill it. How much equity do you have in your home? 50,000? 100,000? More? Cybercrime experts are alerting homeowners that the more equity you have, the greater the chance foreign and domestic criminals will come after you. Title theft is one of the fastest growing crimes. Home Title Lock, America's leader in home title protection, is alerting homeowners they could already be a victim and not know it. Here's how it goes down. First, cyber thieves search hundreds of public databases for high equity homes. Next, they pull your home's title that's online. They forge your signature stating you sold your home, and they take out loans using your equity. You're not covered by insurance. Your bank or common identity theft programs protect your most valuable asset. Register your address now to see if you're already a victim and receive a complete title history of your home, a $100 value free. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. That's HomeTitleLock.com. So suppose the Catholic Church and the evangelicals went into all the churches, and on Sunday they interrupted it and said, Stacey Abrams is here in all the black churches, so in all our churches we want to tell you can't vote for McAuliffe because he's going to kill babies. Well, in any event, that would be horrible, wouldn't be allowed to do it. So this has ignited now a debate all over the country about who's right and wrong here. When push comes to shove and you have these highly controversial programs of teaching critical race theory, which they say they don't teach, but they do. They just don't call it critical race theory. So in many, many schools in the United States, and I don't know if it's a majority of them, certainly a very significant percentage of public schools and a growing percentage of snooty private schools are now teaching critical race theory. Or they're not teaching critical race theory, they're teaching that all whites are inherently racist. And they're teaching that Abraham Kendi's theory that to combat racism, we need racism. So to combat racism, we have to make the people who were the oppressed now the ones who do the oppressing. And whites can't be trusted, whites have to be disadvantaged, we should have reparations and their property can be taken away. All of this can be found, by the way, in the agenda of Black Lives Matter, which was put together by 3 Marxists led by Patrisse Cullors, who will gladly acknowledge to you she is a follower of communism. So this guy has really unleashed a storm here. Basically, if they vote for McAuliffe, they're basically voting for a guy where the parents are giving away their rights over the education of their children, which I believe, although not yet decided by the Supreme Court, but I don't think anybody ever had to do this. I believe under the Constitution of the United States, the right of a parent to make critical decisions for a minor child below 18 is a constitutional right. I think you'd find it in the same set of rights, ultimately, believe it or not, that created Roe against Wade and that whole notion of privacy, or the decisions that preceded it about making decisions about condoms and making decisions about your family. And there's no question, I think, that it would be held to be a constitutional right, and that anything like what McAuliffe is talking about would be held to be unconstitutional. But gosh, you don't have to get that far. It violates the law of Virginia. The law of Virginia specifically creates the right of a parent to make that decision. I mean, this is extraordinary that he would say this. But of course, he's always been a lawless guy. He's always been a lawless guy. And finally, I don't know, but all these left-wing Democrats love the United Nations, right? They're constantly saying that the U.S. violates the Declaration of Human Rights. Of course, that's decided by the Human Rights Commission of the UN that's made up of Iraq, Venezuela, China. Do you realize what phonies they are? Okay, well, in any event, Article 26.3 of the United Nations, and for these lefties, this is much more important than the United States. The United Nations Declaration of Human Rights says, a parent's right to direct the learning of their child is inviolable. That means you can't affect it. It's paramount. Governor McAuliffe can't do what he wants to do. Otherwise, he violates international law. That's the law that they like. Remember, they don't like American anything, but they like the UN, and they like other countries telling us what to do. And other countries are telling us, no, Terry. No. You have to let the parents decide on education. That's a human right. Terry would say, what the hell? I kind of trash lots of human rights and laws. What's another one? Or how about we go to the Supreme Court? Are we allowed to do that anymore? I don't know. In this fascist government of Biden's. But Supreme Court, in a very old opinion, 1925, Pierce versus the Society of Sisters. I'll just read it to you so there's no doubt. The child is not the mere creature of the state, which is what they want to make the child, a creature of the state. What does that sound like? That sounds like communism, Nazism, Marxism, a creature of the state. You're no longer an individual in a collective government. It takes a village. Who said that? A student of Saul Alinsky. Saul Alinsky was the communist socialist of the 1940s and 50s and 60s who helped to teach Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. That's where that thing comes from. It takes a village. Not in Western civilization. It takes a family. We don't diffuse the responsibility for a child because we want to brainwash the child. The child's an individual, soul, created by God. Or if we want to believe in natural rights, has a natural right to its own individuality. So, Supreme Court, 1925, the child is not the mere creature of the state. Those who nurture him and direct his destiny have the right and the high duty to recognize and prepare him for life or for additional obligations. The child is not the mere creature of the state. Those who nurture him and direct his identity have the right and the high duty to recognize and prepare him for additional obligations. So we've got the Supreme Court, we've got the law of Virginia, we got the Constitution of the United States, and we have the United Nations Charter. Whoa! That's a big one, Terry, for you guys, for you lefty weirdos. That's a big one. And you're violating all that. And by the way, what you're doing is disgusting. Taking a child away from their parents and turning them over to a bureaucracy, to bureaucrats, apparatchiks. They don't love that kid. That kid's a ticket to $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 from the government so they can work as little as possible, be penalized as little as possible, have vacations that are astounding, and then take now 2 years off, and they can't come back to work. They had a 2-year vacation. Not the teachers, the communist unions that you're going to put the future of America in, who don't give a damn about them. If they did, our educational programs in America would be doing a lot better than 27th and 32nd and 38th. We wouldn't be like in the middle of the barrel for the country that spends the most money on children. And it's all because of the unions that control your party and own their soul. They don't own your soul. I doubt that you have one. I accomplished a lot in 2020, exposing the truth, establishing the relationship with you, working tirelessly for America. And I came to know the work and value of the people at American Hartford Gold. You see, you buy gold not only for what you know, but you buy gold for what you don't know. American Hartford Gold is the company you can trust when it comes to buying gold. They sell physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or inside of your IRA. In the precious metals industry, They are the highest rated firm in our country with an A+ from the Better Business Bureau and thousands of satisfied clients. Give them a call and tell them Rudy sent you. And be sure to ask them what I bought. And if you call them right now, they will give you up to $1,500 of free silver on your first order. Folks, these are uncertain times. The one thing you can count on to protect what you have worked so hard for is physical gold and silver. So don't wait. Call them now. Call 833-GOLD-777. That's 833-GOLD-777. Or text Rudy to 65532. Again, that's 833-GOLD-777. Or text Rudy to 65532. Just a few little facts. In November, the Coalition for Integrity ranked Virginia's ethics regulations and enforcement 46th in the nation. In other words, you're ranked just about the most corrupt state in the country. I wonder if it has something to do with you. Your pay-for-play approach to politics. You were governor for 4 years. You were head of that decrepit party, right? In 2016, you were under investigation for receiving $120,000 from Chinese communists. How come you Democrats love to take money from Chinese communists? What the heck is it about you? I mean, Biden took millions, you took 120,000. I mean, don't you find them like despicable? They kill 60 million of their own people. They don't like girls. They kill girl babies. And they want to wipe out the Uyghurs, as well as lots of others. I don't know. And then let's remember again that Terry McAuliffe did not descend on Virginia from heaven. He descended on Virginia from maybe the most corrupt presidential administration until this one, the Clinton administration. But what was the really most outrageous theft before they became world-class criminals and sold out to Russia, Ukraine, China for the hundreds of millions? They sold the Lincoln bedroom. Remember? You probably forgot it. Do you know who did that for them? You know who was there? Agent-in-chief? Terry McAuliffe, the same guy who doesn't want parents to have anything to do with children. The same guy that helped Virginia to become one of the most unethical states in the country. Terry McAuliffe sold the Lincoln bedroom so that they could raise more money so that, first of all, they had to support the bimbo squad that went to 40, 50 women that alleged that Bill raped them, took advantage of them, had affairs with them, and got them to shut up through threats, and that must have cost a lot of money. Well, let's go back for 1 second to CNN, which then was known as the Clinton News Network. But in those days, CNN actually could report unfavorable news if it was dominant. CNN reported in 1997, quote, Clinton, who was asked about the White House sleepovers during a drug control briefing, said that in early 1995, friends who helped get him elected in 1992 thought he had not kept in touch with him. Clinton sent then national campaign fundraiser Terrence McAuliffe, I threw him under the bus, right? That's Clinton. Sent him a memorandum suggesting what they ought to do to reestablish contact. And Clinton told him he should proceed. The document showed that Clinton scribbled his enthusiastic approval for the overnight stays on the McAuliffe memorandum, which recommended that major financial supporters be invited to meals, coffee, rounds of golf, or jogging exercises. Well, they didn't just do it a little bit here and a little bit there. They exceeded the pig factor. Lincoln's bedroom was occupied more often during that period than it was occupied by Abraham Lincoln. A list of 938 overnight guests. They contributed over $10 million. Hello, this is Mishka Pushka, and I'm a billionaire, and I contributed $100,000 to the Clinton campaign, and next year going to contribute another $100,000. I'd like to book the Lincoln bedroom for a 2-night stay. If you get up that donation to $100,000, you got it. Okay, Terry, thank you. But I need that money first. This is what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. How do you think Honest Abe would feel about this? He didn't like the all those guys that were trying to get jobs. You know, all those, they were hanging out at the hotels and driving them nuts, and they wanted to get appointed on anything other than merit. I think it'd be like Jesus and the money changers. Abraham had come back, all those 938 would have been thrown out. He probably would have thrown Clinton out because he wouldn't have recognized him as a president. He just had a guy with this kind of lack of ethics, lack of decency, and his crooked wife don't belong in the White House. But in any event, this is what you got in Virginia. This is why you're a national election, Virginia. And this is why people all around the country are going to watch this election. If you elect this guy, you're really making a statement that the people of Virginia want the state to take control of the children and push the parents aside. If you defeat him, we're going to have the first big pause on this express train to communism and Marxism. And boy, it's moving fast. But you can stop it for the good of your country and the good of our children. You got a choice. America depends on you. Don't let us down. Now, let's take a short break, and when we come back, we got another governor. I don't know which one's worse. You tell me. We'll be right back. Big tech monitors us, censors us, deplatforms us. Conservatives have been helpless to do anything about it until now. On Getter, you can talk with friends and family and express your political beliefs without fear of Silicon Valley liberals coming after you. Join Getter, the social media platform that supports free speech and opposes cancel culture. Getter is led by former Trump advisor Jason Miller, who saw what big tech did to President Trump and decided to fight back. Getter is the fastest growing social media platform in history, with over 1.6 million users and growing, including prominent conservatives like Mike Pompeo, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Steve Bannon. Join Getter. It's in the App Store, the Google Play Store, and at Getter.com. Longer posts, longer videos, sharper and clearer pictures, and unlike the Silicon Valley oligarchs, Getter will never sell your data. Send a message today, join Getter. It's time to cancel culture. Welcome back. Well, now that we've disposed of Terry Lincoln Bedroom McAuliffe, and I know the wise people of Virginia are going to save our country from him throwing parents out of schools and basically take them away from their parents so they can become members of Biden youth at about 2. So now we go to a state I have a great deal of affection for. I consider the northern part of it almost my constituency. My son went to high school there and held the record for the most points as a place kicker for a while. But all the joking around we do, I love New Jersey. It's part of New Jersey, Connecticut, New York. I mean, we're all. And my favorite football team plays there, although it still irks me. It's really the New Jersey Giants, if you want to be truthful. You know? New Jersey has a governor that if he were running a business, he'd be fired and they would sue him. Yeah, they would sue him. They would sue him for gross mismanagement. I'm going to give you just a few examples and then just vote against them, huh? I mean, this is ridiculous to keep voting for this guy. Let's start with his appearance on Tucker Carlson, in which he talked about his decision when he did his close down. He was the first one to do a mask mandate and the last one to relieve it. he included all churches and houses of worship with a very, very, even though he had a very strict social distancing requirement. And he arrested 15 men who were congregating for a rabbi's funeral at a Lakewood synagogue in early April. And Tucker, who, maybe in fact, almost as good at a questioner as some of the great cross-examiners, including me, said to him, how do you have the authority to do something like this? It controverts the Bill of Rights of the United States. And he said, big, long, rambling answer about faith and different faiths. We have to find a different way to worship. And Carlson said what any American who understands our history, our values, who we are, who we fundamentally are. I mean, if I heard that, it would just ring so alien to me. It would say to me, oh, this guy's not an American. Tucker said, governments are not allowed to tell people how to worship. Gosh almighty, that's why they left England. They didn't establish this place for slavery like the phony liars communists tell you. Slavery was a European institution that existed for thousands of years and centuries before America. We established this place for something much more unique: religious freedom and political freedom. That's why they left England. That's when we celebrate Thanksgiving very shortly. We'll be celebrating those Puritans who left, who weren't perfect people, but they wanted to practice their religion not the way the Church of England wanted them to do it, but the way they wanted to do it. But in New Jersey, you've got to practice it the way, what would we call him? He's not a governor. I don't want to use a Nazi analogy. It's always kind of overdone. Commissar is too low. Boss, maybe. So Murphy says we have to find a different way to worship. Where does he come to think that? So this all led to his eventually saying that the Bill of Rights is beyond his pay grade.
So you made that decision, and as I noted before, 15 congregants at a synagogue in New Jersey were arrested and charged for being in a synagogue together. Now, the Bill of Rights, as you well know, protects Americans' right, enshrines their right to practice their religion as they see fit and to congregate together, to assemble peacefully. By what authority did you nullify the Bill of Rights in issuing this order? How do you have the power to do that?
That's above my pay grade, Tucker. So I wasn't thinking of the Bill of Rights when we did this.
I think you should have been impeached. You take an oath. Right? Probably, even if you're not too smart, you got to remember the oath. What do you take an oath to do as a governor? I took it as a mayor, among other things, to enforce the Constitution of the United States. If it's beyond your pay grade, you're cheating the people by getting paid. That's one of your primary duties, is to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And if it's above your pay grade, you should quit. But he didn't quit. He stayed, and he trampled constitutional rights for a year, locking people in, not allowing them to have appropriate church services, ruining the businesses of New Jersey. And boy, his record on COVID, that alone should get him thrown out. Do you know that New Jersey has been consistently 1 or 2 in the most per capita deaths from CCP virus? 1 or 2. We got 50 states. They come in at 49 or 50, or 1 or 2 for killing people. And I'll tell you where it's even more outrageous. They come in 1 or 2 again for killing elderly people in nursing homes. Their per capita average is stronger than Cuomo. Cuomo's not far behind. He's like 4. They were forcing elderly people into nursing homes and not taking care that the nursing homes were properly configured. It was sure death. If we knew one thing about COVID, we knew that it killed old people. Almost you could say it only killed old people. The deaths among people less than 60, not very great. Less than 50, even smaller. Less than 20, almost non-existent. Where did the deaths take place? Well, you just go up. Over 60, some. Over 70, more. Over 80, a lot more. Over 90, way more. Where do those people live? They live in nursing homes. This is a disease where you have to do quarantine. And Cuomo and Murphy stuff them into houses of death? I don't know. I think you lead the country in that. Oh, you're number 2. You don't get another chance, huh? Now, who else are you going to kill? And do you know the people in New Jersey? I don't get this. And if you reelect him, it's your fault. You think he did a good job with COVID. What's the good job? Again, the state of New Jersey basically leads the country, or is number 2 in the most per capita number of people dying from COVID. Kind of shows you he was doing a terrible job managing it. Number 2, and even worse because he made a deliberate choice here. The elderly people in the nursing homes died per capita more in New Jersey than any place else, or possibly number 2. Now, this is worse than you think, because his administration was warned that this was going to happen, and they did it anyway. Listen to this tape that was acquired. Now, this is a tape of a man warning his administration that by stuffing these people into nursing homes, he was going to kill them.
Patients will die. You understand that by asking us to take COVID patients, that patients will die.
Now, one could say, well, maybe he had a totally disorganized administration, even at a time of crisis, which makes him a terrible crisis manager. So, hey, let's get rid of him for that, huh? If you don't want to get rid of him for killing more people than just about any place else, and killing more elderly people than any place else, and thinking that the Bill of Rights is beyond what he's supposed to enforce, how about you get rid of him for having a lousy administration because that information never got to him? But I mean, even if it didn't, what about common sense? This became an issue, a national issue, and you never changed it. What's wrong with this guy? And then listen to his cavalier, insensitive attitude about the death of elderly people. It's got to send a shiver up your spine if you're over 70 years old. Or you got grandparents or parents you love. Listen to this.
In many cases, those are end-of-life patients to begin with.
I would describe that as the Democrat elitist attitude. A lot of governors, 48 other governors did a better job, Republican and Democrat. You can't do better than him. This is a guy who doesn't really care very much about old people. He also thinks he doesn't have to care about the Bill of Rights. He can stomp on your religious rights. He can keep you out of school. He can do all kinds of things. But then let's look at some of the basics too. So this is probably one of the most famous moments of the last 3-4 years in the tax debate. So he was being challenged. He was being challenged for having such very, very high tax rates in the state of New Jersey. I tell you, when this guy gets challenged, he really comes up with some real insights into how incompetent he really is and why your state is in the terrible, terrible, terrible position that it's in. So he was being challenged on the tax rates. And here's basically what he said. I'll paraphrase and then you can listen to it. He basically said, well, if you don't like high taxes, New Jersey's not the place for you. Go somewhere else. Listen to it.
And I would say this, if you're a one-issue voter and tax rate is your issue, we're probably not your state.
You believe this guy? We're not going to lower taxes. We're going to be one of the highest tax states in the country. We're going to have a high income tax, a high sales tax, a high property tax, and then we're going to invent even more to take money from you. And then we're going to do a good job of wasting it because we sure don't have great services here. And we are going to probably steal some of it because we've had perennial corruption here. But, and if you don't like it, go to hell, leave. You know what they did? They left. Because you know what else New Jersey leads the country in? You got it. 3 years in a row. The greatest percentage decline in the number of people in the state. He said, if you want to leave, leave. And they left. I wish they had remained and voted against him first and then left. And there are a lot of states, people are leaving big time like mine. Now, we have more numbers than they do because we're, much, much bigger. But their per capita loss, which is what affects the bottom line, is greater than ours. And again, depending on the study, New Jersey is number 1 or number 2 or number 3 for people abandoning the state. But there's one study done by the moving companies that puts them number 1 for the last 3 years. So they answered the governor. If you don't like the tax rate here, leave. Okay, dummy, we're leaving. But who's going to pay the taxes now? Oh, just in case you need any more. I know, do you really need any more? Come on, I love you guys in New Jersey. You don't want to look dumb, do you? I mean, you look dumb voting for this guy. You really do. How about, I just thought I'd take a look at I could look at a lot of things. I thought I'd take a look at one other thing. Something really important to everybody, unemployment, which the country's doing pretty good in, except in states run by fascist Democrat governors. Oh, you're not the worst in the country. In fact, the best state has 2% unemployment. You got 7% unemployment. And there are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 states that have 7% unemployment. I'm counting them up here, and I don't find a Republican state. I wonder what that tells you. Gosh, I'm going up here. I just found a Republican state, but it's way up there. So these are the worst. Nevada, Democrat. California, communist. New York, communist. New Mexico, Democrat. New Jersey, socialist. Connecticut, Democrat. Illinois, corrupt. Hawaii, District of Columbia, Pennsylvania, crooked. That's it. That's your group of the most unemployment. These are the ones that don't care about poor people, so they don't find jobs for them. Like, they're called phonies. Your governor's got one of the worst records on jobs. He's got the worst record on killing people for COVID. He's got the worst record, or the second worst record, on killing elderly people in nursing homes. He told you to leave the state if you don't like the tax rates, and you're leading the country in people leaving your state. He's got you at one of the worst positions for jobs. We could talk about crime, and we could talk about other things. This is a national race. It's a national race because it's going to signal either your agreement or displeasure with the Democrat Party's express train to Marxism. Because Murphy is a 100%, 1,000% supporter of our challenged president, who's not done a single good thing and has created about 10 catastrophes since he come into office. You vote for him, you're voting for a continuation of that. You vote against him, boy, we can put a jam right in there. We can stop our country being moved on an express train to socialism and communism and Marxism. We can send a signal that'll be heard all around the country and all around the world that America does not allow people to take their freedoms away. We're not a bunch of sheep, and we're not stupid. We're not going to keep re-electing some guy who leads the country in killing his own people because he's so damn negligent in not caring whether they have jobs because he's one of the worst in the country. And boy, next time we talk about him, let's talk about education, because he sure doesn't give a damn about your kids either. I haven't even talked about the Republican. He's a perfectly fine guy. He'll be excellent. But I could go pick about 5,000 people in New Jersey to do a better job than him. So why don't you do that? Show that New Jersey has had it. Show them they can't just do anything to you, the Democrat Party, and you vote for them at the end no matter what. Stand up for America. And thank you for listening to me. We'll be back shortly with another episode of Rudy's Common Sense. And go to rudyscommonsense.com if you have any questions about this show or any suggestions you want to give me. Thank you very much. And God bless America.